What happens when your own father trades you to his worst enemies for 3 horses and a bag of tobacco, telling you with dead eyes that you were never really his son anyway? I was 14 winters old, standing in the center of our Apache camp in 1838, watching my father shake hands with the Comanche war chief who would own me. The entire tribe gathered to witness my shame, the boy who wasn't wanted, being sold like a broken tool to the people who had murdered my mother. Everyone expected me to beg, to cry, to fight, but what nobody knew was that I had been planning this moment for 3 months, and the Comanche warriors who thought they were buying a terrified slave had no idea they were bringing home the weapon that would destroy them from within. Before I tell you how I became a ghost that haunted my enemies, less than 5% of you will watch this entire story without stopping. If you've ever been betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect you, if you understand that sometimes the greatest revenge comes from letting your enemies think they've won, keep watching. Because what happened after I was sold into slavery will prove that the most dangerous warrior isn't the one who fights back immediately. It's the one who waits, watches, and strikes when no one sees it coming. My name is Shadow That Kills, though that wasn't always my name. I was born he who laughs easily, in the year the white man calls 1824. In an Apache band that hunted the mountains between what the Spanish called New Mexico and Texas. My mother was full Apache, beautiful and fierce, a woman who could track a deer through stone and fight like 3 men. My father was also Apache, but he was weak, bitter, a man who had never earned respect and resented everyone who had. My mother died when I was 11, killed in a Comanche raid. 20 Comanche warriors attacked our camp at dawn, and my mother fought them with a knife, killing 2 before they shot her full of arrows. I watched her die from where my father had hidden me in the rocks. I watched her fight. I watched her fall. I watched the Comanche mutilate her body and take her scalp as a trophy. My father did nothing. He hid in those rocks with me, holding me down when I tried to run to her, covering my mouth when I tried to scream. She's already dead, he hissed. Getting yourself killed won't bring her back. After the raid, something broke in my father. Or maybe it was already broken, and my mother's death just revealed it. He started drinking the white man's whiskey that traders sold us. He gambled away our horses, our weapons, everything my mother had worked for. He became angry, violent, blaming me for things that weren't my fault. You look like her, he would say, drunk and hateful. Every time I see your face, I see her, and I hate it. I tried to be a good son. I hunted. I brought back meat. I took care of our lodge. I trained to be a warrior, learning to track, to shoot, to fight. I thought if I could just be good enough, strong enough, valuable enough, he would love me again. The day everything changed started like any other day. I woke up at dawn and went hunting. I brought back 2 rabbits and a quail. Not a great hunt, but respectable. I returned to camp proud, ready to share the meat with my father. Instead, I found him sitting with 3 Comanche warriors in our lodge. Comanche, the people who killed my mother, the people who were our blood enemies, sitting in our home, smoking with my father like they were friends. I stood in the entrance, confused and angry. Father, what are they doing here? My father looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not anger, not hatred, something worse, complete indifference, like I was a stranger, not his son. Come in, boy, he said. These men have come with an offer. The Comanche warriors studied me like they were evaluating a horse. One of them, older with scars covering half his face, smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. He's small, the scarred warrior said in broken Apache. But he looks strong. Good teeth. No diseases? None, my father said. He's healthy, good hunter, obedient. Horror began to dawn on me. Father, what are you doing? Making a deal, he said flatly. The Comanche needs slaves. You need a new home. This works out for everyone. I couldn't breathe. You're selling me to the people who killed Mother? Your mother is dead, he said, his voice cold. Being angry about it won't change that. And you, he looked at me with complete contempt. You were never really my son. Your mother loved you, but I never did. You're a reminder of everything I lost, everything I failed to protect, Every time I see you, I see my shame. The words hit me like physical blows. I had known he resented me, but I thought underneath it all, he was still my father. I thought he still loved me, just a little bit. I was wrong. 3 horses, the scarred Comanche said. And this, he held up a bag of tobacco. That's our offer for the boy. My father didn't even hesitate. Done. No. I lunged at him, but the other 2 Comanche warriors grabbed me. I fought them, screaming, crying, begging my father to reconsider. Please, father, please, I'll be better. I'll hunt more. I'll do anything. Please don't sell me. He didn't even look at me. He took the 3 horses and the tobacco, inspected them like he was making sure he got a fair deal, and nodded with satisfaction. Take him, he said. He's yours now. The Comanche tied my hands and put a rope around my neck like a dog. They dragged me out of the lodge, and the entire camp came to watch. My friends, the people I'd grown up with, the elders who had taught me, they all stood there watching as I was sold to our enemies. Some looked sad. Some looked uncomfortable. But none of them tried to stop it. My father had the right to do what he wanted with me. That's how our laws worked. And I was just a boy, nobody valued enough to fight for. Guys, I need you to stop here and feel what that moment was like. Imagine being 14 years old and having your own father tell you that you were never really his son. Imagine being sold to your mother's murderers while everyone you know watches and does nothing. Comment below if you've ever been betrayed by family, abandoned by the people who were supposed to protect you. Share your story, because this kind of pain, the pain of being unwanted by your own blood, never fully heals. It just teaches you who you really are when you have nothing and no one. The Comanche took me south into their territory. A journey that took 5 days. They didn't feed me much, just enough to keep me alive. They beat me when I walked too slowly. They laughed when I stumbled. The scarred warrior, whose name was Cuts Deep, took particular pleasure in reminding me of my new status. You're not Apache anymore, he said. You're not a person anymore. You're property, less than a dog. A dog we might feed and care for. But you're a slave. The lowest thing that exists. And if you forget that, I'll remind you with my whip. When we reached their main camp, I was paraded through like a trophy. Comanche children threw rocks at me. Women spat at me. Warriors kicked me as I passed. I was taken to the lodge of Cuts Deep and chained to a post outside like an animal. You sleep here, he told me, in the dirt, with the dogs. Your jobs are simple. Fetch water, gather wood, clean up after the horses, do whatever anyone tells you to do. If you refuse any order, you'll be beaten. If you try to escape, we'll cut the tendons in your legs so you can never walk properly again. If you cause any serious trouble, we'll kill you slowly. Do you understand? I nodded, saying nothing. I had learned something important during that 5-day journey. Fighting openly would get me killed. Begging would make them enjoy my suffering more. But if I could make them think I was broken, defeated, no threat at all, then maybe I could survive long enough to find a way out. Good, Cuts Deep said. Now get to work. The horses need feeding. For the next 6 months, I lived as the lowest slave in the Comanche camp. I did the worst jobs, cleaning up waste, carrying heavy loads, scrubbing cooking pots. I was fed scraps. I slept outside in all weather. I was beaten regularly for small mistakes or no reason at all. But I was also watching, learning, planning. I learned the layout of the camp, where the warriors slept, where the weapons were stored, where the horses were kept. I learned the patterns of the guards, when they were alert and when they were lazy. I learned which warriors were respected and which were mocked. I learned the language, pretending I understood less than I did so people would speak freely around me. And I learned their weaknesses. Every person, every system, every tribe has weaknesses. You just have to be patient enough to find them. The Comanche were powerful warriors, feared across the plains, but they were also arrogant. They believed their own legends. They believed they were invincible, and they believed that a 14-year-old Apache slave was completely harmless. That arrogance would destroy them. 3 months into my slavery, something happened that changed everything. A group of Comanche warriors returned from a raid with captured goods, including several Apache scalps. They displayed them proudly in the center of camp, boasting about how many Apache they had killed. One of those scalps had a distinctive shell necklace still tangled in the hair. I recognized it immediately. It was my mother's necklace, the one she was wearing when she died, which meant these weren't just any Comanche warriors. These were the same men who had killed her 3 years ago. I stood there, staring at my mother's scalp, hanging from a pole, while Comanche warriors danced and celebrated. And something inside me changed. The scared, beaten slave disappeared. Something colder, harder, more dangerous took its place. I stopped hoping for rescue. I stopped waiting for things to get better. I stopped being a victim. I became a weapon. That night, I started my real work. I began to sabotage them. Slowly, carefully, in ways they wouldn't notice. I weakened the leather straps on their saddles, so they would break during raids. I put small stones in the grain they fed their war horses, causing mild colics that made the horses unreliable. I learned which warriors were sleeping with which women they shouldn't be, and I left accidental evidence where jealous husbands would find it. I started rumors. I would overhear a warrior say something, then repeat it to another warrior but slightly twisted, making it sound like an insult. Within weeks, warriors who had been friends were fighting. Alliances were fracturing. The camp was becoming divided. And I did it all while appearing to be the perfect slave, obedient, stupid, broken. No one suspected me. Why would they? I was just the Apache boy who carried water and cleaned up horse manure. 6 months into my captivity, my biggest opportunity came. Cuts Deep was planning a major raid on a Spanish settlement. It would be the largest raid in years, involving 50 warriors. If successful, they would gain horses, weapons, captives and prestige that would make Cuts Deep one of the most powerful chiefs in Comanche territory. But I overheard the planning. I knew when they would attack, which route they would take, how many warriors would go, and where they would leave the camp vulnerable. I had learned enough Comanche by then to speak it, though I pretended I couldn't. One night, when everyone was asleep, I slipped my chains. I had been slowly working them loose for months, and I ran. Not back to my Apache people. They had abandoned me. My father had sold me. I owed them nothing. Instead, I ran to the Spanish settlement that was about to be attacked. It took me 2 days of running, hiding, surviving on nothing. When I reached the settlement, the Spanish soldiers almost shot me. I looked wild, savage, dangerous, but I spoke enough Spanish, learned from traders who had visited our Apache camp, to make them understand. Comanche, I gasped, 50 warriors, attacking in 3 days. I know their plan. I can help you. The Spanish commander, a man named Captain Rodriguez, studied me suspiciously. Why would you help us? You're Indian. The Comanche killed my mother, I said. They enslaved me. They beat me. They took everything from me. Now I want to take everything from them. He saw the truth in my eyes. The hatred. The cold, patient desire for revenge. Tell me everything, he said. I did. I drew maps in the dirt showing the route the Comanche would take. I explained their tactics, how they would split into 3 groups, attack from different sides, create confusion. I told them about the signal fires they would use, the war cries, everything. If you set up an ambush here, I pointed to a narrow canyon on my map, you can trap them. They'll be expecting an easy raid on an undefended settlement. Instead, they'll ride into a killing ground. Captain Rodriguez assembled his forces, 60 soldiers with rifles and cannons. They positioned themselves exactly where I told them to. And then we waited. 3 days later, the Comanche war party rode into that canyon, whooping and confident, expecting to find a sleeping settlement. Instead, they found Spanish soldiers with rifles and cannons positioned on both sides of the canyon walls. The battle was over in minutes. The Comanche, trapped in the narrow space, couldn't maneuver. They couldn't use their superior horsemanship. They couldn't retreat. The Spanish guns cut them down like wheat before a scythe. Cuts Deep died in that canyon, shot 3 times. Before he died, he saw me standing on the canyon rim next to Captain Rodriguez. Our eyes met across the distance, and in that moment, he understood. The harmless slave boy had destroyed him. I watched him die with no emotion, Just cold satisfaction. Of the 50 warriors who went on that raid, only 7 survived to escape. The Comanche's largest war party in years was annihilated, and it was all because of information I gave the Spanish. Captain Rodriguez was impressed. "You have a gift for war," he told me. "For strategy. You think like a commander, not a slave." "I was never a slave," I said. "I was a prisoner, learning everything I could about my enemies. Now I want to finish what I started." "What do you mean?" "The Comanche camp is vulnerable right now. They sent their best warriors on this raid. Only old men, women, children, and a few guards remain. If you attack now, tonight, you can destroy them completely." Rodriguez hesitated. "That seems dishonorable, to attack a camp full of non-combatants." "They raided my Apache camp and killed women and children," I said flatly. "They kept me as a slave. They beat me daily. They murdered my mother and kept her scalp as a trophy. They've terrorized this region for generations. And you're worried about honor?" He looked at me, this 14-year-old boy with eyes like ice, and made his decision. "Show me where the camp is." That night, 60 Spanish soldiers attacked the Comanche camp. I led them straight to it. I showed them where the weapons were stored, where the guards would be, how to enter without being detected until it was too late. The attack was devastating. The Comanche, caught completely by surprise, with most of their warriors dead in the canyon, couldn't organize a defense. The Spanish captured dozens of women and children as slaves. Ironic justice. They burned the lodges. They took all the horses. They destroyed everything. And I walked through that burning camp searching for one thing, my mother's scalp. I found it still hanging in Cut Steep's lodge, which was now on fire. I pulled it down, wrapped it carefully in cloth, and held it close. "I avenged you, mother," I whispered. "They're destroyed. Every one of them who hurt you paid for it. The Spanish offered to take me to their settlement, to raise me as a Catholic, to give me a new life. But I refused. I wasn't Spanish, I wasn't Comanche, and I wasn't Apache anymore. They had abandoned me when my father sold me. I was something new, something forged in betrayal and slavery, and patient cold revenge." We took a horse, some weapons, and supplies the Spanish gave me as payment for my help, and I rode north, not to my old Apache band. I would never forgive them, but to other Apache band, other tribes, offering my services as a scout, a strategist, a warrior who understood how to destroy enemies from within. I changed my name to Shadow That Kills, because that's what I had become, a shadow that moved unseen, gathering information, finding weaknesses, striking when no one expected it. Over the next 30 years, I fought in dozens of battles. I helped Apache bands defeat Comanche raiders using the tactics I had learned. I showed Mexican forces how to ambush war parties. I taught other tribes how to sabotage their enemies slowly, carefully, patiently. I became known across the territory as the warrior who won battles before they began, who destroyed enemies without them ever knowing he was the one attacking them. I never married. I never had children. I trusted no one completely, because I had learned that even your own father could betray you. But I was respected. I was valued. I was never unwanted again. When I was 43 winters old, I heard news that my father had died. He had lived alone, drunk and miserable, slowly losing his mind. In his final days, people said he called out for me, asking forgiveness, weeping for the son he had sold. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no sadness, no anger, just emptiness where family love should have been. I never went back to that Apache camp. Those people had watched me be sold and done nothing. They had let my father trade me for 3 horses and tobacco, and no one had said, "This is wrong, this child deserves better." But I did eventually return to the canyon, where the Comanche war party was destroyed. The bones were still there, scattered among the rocks. I found what was left of Cut Steep's skull, and placed it on a high rock where the vultures had already cleaned it. "You thought you bought a slave," I said to the skull. "You thought you owned me, but you never owned me. You just taught me how to destroy people like you, and I used those lessons to end you. I left my mother's scalp there too, buried properly in the Apache way, with prayers and respect. She deserved to rest, not hang as a trophy in some warrior's lodge. I'm sorry I couldn't save you," I told her grave, But I made them pay, every single one of them. And I made my father pay by becoming someone he could never control, never diminish, never sell. I became the weapon that his betrayal created. Guys, I'm 62 winters old now as I tell you this story. That was 48 years ago and I still carry it with me. The memory of my father shaking hands with Comanche warriors while I begged him not to sell me. The memory of being chained like a dog, beaten like an animal, treated as less than human. But I also carry the memory of the moment I stopped being a victim and became something else. The moment I realized that the greatest revenge isn't immediate violence, it's patient, strategic destruction of everything your enemy values. Here's what I learned. When people betray you, especially family, you have two choices. You can let that betrayal break you, make you weak, make you stay a victim forever, or you can let it forge you into something harder, colder, more dangerous than you ever would have been otherwise. My father thought he was getting rid of a burden when he sold me. He didn't realize he was creating the weapon that would destroy his enemies and prove his betrayal was the biggest mistake of his worthless life. If this story moved you, share it. Share it if you've ever been abandoned by family. Share it if you've ever been treated as worthless and had to prove your value to yourself, not to them. Share it if you understand that sometimes betrayal is the best teacher you'll ever have because it shows you exactly who you are when you have nothing but yourself. And remember, the people who betray you, who treat you as disposable, who think you're too weak to fight back, they're making the same mistake my father made. They're creating someone who will never forget, never forgive, and never stop until they've proven that being underestimated is the most dangerous gift you can give your enemy. That is my story. That is how I was sold as a slave and became the shadow that killed my enemies. And I would live through every moment of that pain again, because it made me who I am, a warrior who no one owns, no one controls, and no one ever underestimates twice. To my father, wherever your pathetic spirit wanders, thank you for selling me. It was the best thing you ever did for me. It taught me that blood means nothing, loyalty means nothing, only strength and intelligence matter. And I had both while you had neither. To cuts deep and every Comanche warrior who beat me, your bones bleach in that canyon as payment for your arrogance. To my mother, I avenged you. Rest peacefully. Comment below, have you ever been betrayed by family? Have you ever been treated as worthless and had to build yourself back up? Have you ever turned your pain into power? Your story matters. Share it. But remember, the best revenge isn't making them suffer. It's becoming so successful, so strong, so valuable, that their betrayal becomes the worst mistake they ever made.